Ryan Fletcher sat in his small apartment, staring out the window as the cool breeze of Earth's evening washed over him. He had always loved these quiet moments, when everything felt still and the weight of the world seemed far away. His life had been simple ever since humanity first made contact with the alien civilizations. The world had changed in many ways, but Ryan had mostly kept to himself, working as an engineer. He wasn't one for grand adventures or politics. He just wanted to live his life and stay out of the chaos. That was until the message came. It had been delivered to his personal comm device in the middle of the night. At first, Ryan had thought it was a joke or a spam message, something to distract him from his work. But when he saw the sender's name, his heart skipped a beat. The message was from Zarak, an alien diplomat and old friend. Ryan had helped Zarak during a crucial mission years ago, when he had first become involved with the Galactic Council. Zarak had always spoken highly of Ryan, and the two had formed an unlikely bond despite their differences. The message itself was short and cryptic. "Ryan, I have something important to give you. Please come to my planet. Time is running out. I trust you with this." Ryan had felt a chill run through him as he read the words. Zarak's tone wasn't like him. He was usually calm and composed, but this message sounded urgent, desperate even. Without wasting time, Ryan packed his bags and set off for Zarak's homeworld, a planet called Orcs 5, located in a distant part of the galaxy. The trip was long, but Ryan's thoughts kept drifting back to the message. What had happened to Zarak? Why had he reached out to Ryan now, after all this time? And what was so important that it couldn't wait? When Ryan finally arrived at Orcs 5, the planet greeted him with its usual alien beauty. Towering crystal structures reflected the sun's rays, and the air was thick with a calming natural fragrance. But something was off. The streets were quieter than usual, and there was a strange tension in the air. He made his way to Zarak's home, a large, elegant building made from glowing stone. It was where he had first met Zarak years ago, and it held many memories. As Ryan entered the building, he was met by a group of Zarak's aides, their faces solemn. "Where is Zarak?" Ryan asked, his voice filled with concern. One of the aides stepped forward, bowing his head. "I regret to inform you, Ryan, that Ambassador Zarak is no longer with us. He passed away suddenly, under mysterious circumstances." Ryan froze. The news hit him harder than he expected. Zarak had been a figure of strength and wisdom in his eyes, someone who seemed invincible. Hearing that he was gone, without warning, felt wrong. Something didn't sit right about it. "What happened?" Ryan asked, trying to mask the worry in his voice. "We are still investigating," the aide said, "but we believe it was not an accident. His passing is part of a larger situation that involves more than just our world." Ryan's mind raced. Zarak's death wasn't natural. There was more to it. But the aides wouldn't give him any further information. Instead, they led him to a private chamber where Zarak had left something for him. Inside the chamber, Ryan saw a small glowing box resting on a pedestal. He approached it cautiously, his curiosity piqued. As he opened it, inside he found a recording device. He activated it, and Zarak's face appeared on the screen. The image was faint, as if the device had been in use for a long time. Zarak's voice was steady but filled with urgency. "Ryan, if you're seeing this, then I'm already gone. I'm sorry. There are things I should have told you earlier, but time was never on our side. What I'm leaving behind is not just a legacy of diplomacy, but a responsibility. You will inherit more than you realize. You must protect her, Ryan. She will need you." Ryan's confusion deepened. Who was she? Zarak continued, his face more serious now. "She is my wife, Lena. An alien from another world, bound by a promise I made long ago. She is not just any alien. She holds the key to something powerful, something dangerous. Protect her with your life, Ryan. The galaxy depends on it." The recording ended abruptly. Ryan was left in silence, the weight of Zorak's words hanging in the air. Protect her. Who was Lena? And why had Zorak trusted him with such a monumental responsibility? Before Ryan could process what he had just heard, one of Zorak's aides entered the room, carrying a soft, metallic object in his hands. It was a small, delicate pendant, glowing with a strange, otherworldly light. "This is for you, Ryan," the aide said. "It's a symbol of your inheritance. You will need it to find her." Without another word, the aide left the room, leaving Ryan to absorb everything he had just learned. His mind was spinning. Zorak's death was no accident, and the mysterious woman he had been married to was now somehow tied to Ryan's future. As the days passed, Ryan made arrangements to meet Lena, the woman Zorak had spoken of. The pendant was his only clue, and it would guide him to her. But what would he find when they met? And would he be able to protect her from whatever danger lurked in the galaxy? He didn't know yet, but one thing was clear. His life would never be the same again. Ryan stood in front of the large door, his heart racing. The pendant he held in his hand pulsed softly, a reminder of the strange responsibility he had just inherited. He looked up at the ornate building in front of him, the architecture a mix of flowing curves and shining metallic surfaces. It was unlike anything on Earth, the work of an alien civilization far more advanced than humanity. The air around him was thick with the scent of unfamiliar flowers, and soft sounds that seemed to come from nowhere filled the space. Ryan was on Orionis 5, Zorak's homeworld, and everything about it felt both exciting and intimidating. He had no idea what to expect when he met Lena, but the urgency in Zorak's message couldn't be ignored. Protect her. That was Zorak's final command. The weight of it pressed heavily on Ryan's shoulders. How was he supposed to protect someone he had never met, especially when that person was from an entirely different species? The door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a vast room beyond. Inside, Ryan found a woman standing near a window, her back to him. She was tall, her figure graceful and fluid, as though she moved with the wind itself. Her long, silver hair shimmered under the soft light, and her skin glowed with a faint, ethereal blue hue. She turned slowly as Ryan stepped inside, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. Lena was strikingly beautiful, but it wasn't just her looks that made her stand out. It was the presence she carried. There was an undeniable power in the air around her, something ancient and strong, but it was tempered by a quiet sadness. Her eyes met Ryan's, and for a moment, he saw the grief there. She wasn't just a widow. She was someone who had lost more than just a husband. She had lost a part of herself. "I'm Ryan Fletcher," he said, his voice sounding far too small in the vast room. "I'm here because of Zorak." Lena's expression remained unreadable, but she nodded slowly. "You're the one he spoke of. The human. The one who will protect me." Ryan felt a chill run through him at the mention of Zorak. He had never imagined that his life would take such a turn, but here he was, standing before an alien woman, the widow of his old friend, tasked with keeping her safe from some unseen danger. "I'm sorry for your loss," Ryan said, unsure of what else to say. Lena nodded again, but her eyes remained distant. "Zorak was my bond, my partner, my protector. His passing leaves a void that cannot be filled." Ryan felt uncomfortable under her gaze. He had no experience with aliens, let alone the complexities of their relationships. He wasn't sure how to comfort her, or if she even wanted comfort. "I know this is sudden," Ryan said, taking a tentative step forward. "But I'm here now. I don't know what Zorak had planned for us, but I'll do whatever it takes." Lena finally seemed to soften, her eyes studying him as if weighing his sincerity. "You're human. Your species are not known for their grace in our world. But there is something in you, something Zorak trusted." She paused, her gaze lingering on the pendant Ryan still held in his hand. "This will guide you. But the danger we face is not something that can be solved with simple protection." Ryan frowned. "What do you mean?" Lena moved toward him, her movements fluid like water. She took a deep breath, as if preparing herself to speak. The danger Zarak spoke of is not just an enemy in the traditional sense. It is an ancient force, one that has been sleeping for millennia. And now it is awakening. Zarak and I were bound by a pact, an agreement made long before we ever met. The fate of the galaxy is tied to what Zarak and I shared. Ryan's head spun. The fate of the galaxy. Are you telling me that you're somehow involved in something that big? Lena met his gaze again, her eyes filled with an intense, knowing look. Yes. And you will be too. You are now part of this, whether you are ready or not. Ryan swallowed, trying to process what she was saying. What do you mean? I'm just an engineer. I don't know anything about galactic politics or ancient forces. Why did Zarak think I could help? Lena's lips curled slightly, a touch of amusement in her eyes. Because you are human, Ryan. You are unpredictable. You are capable of things that the rest of us often overlook. Zarak saw that in you. He saw the strength that lies in your people. Ryan's mind raced. He had never considered that humanity had any unique strengths, not in a galactic context. But there was something in Lena's voice that made him feel a flicker of hope. If she believed in him, maybe there was more to his role in this story than he had imagined. I don't understand any of this, Ryan admitted. But I'll try. I'll do whatever I can to help. Lena gave him a nod of approval. That is all I can ask for. She took a deep breath. We must leave soon. The forces that killed Zarak are closing in, and they will not stop until they find me. You must help me understand my full potential, Ryan. There are powers within me that even I don't fully comprehend. The sooner we unlock them, the better. Ryan's mind raced again. Unlock her powers. He had no idea how to do that. But the seriousness in her eyes left him with little choice. He had to help her, and he had to do it quickly. I'll help, Ryan said, determination setting in his voice. But I need to know more. What exactly are we up against? Lena's face hardened, her eyes steely. A force older than time itself. And if we don't stop it, it will consume everything. Ryan felt the weight of her words settle heavily on his shoulders. The journey ahead would be dangerous, and he still didn't fully understand what he was getting into. But he knew one thing for certain. He would stand by Lena's side, no matter the cost. The fate of the galaxy, and perhaps their future together, depended on it. Ryan and Lena stood at the edge of a vast chamber, illuminated by an eerie, pulsating light. The room was deep within the heart of Orionis V's ancient city, hidden from the general public. The walls were covered in intricate symbols that glowed faintly, their meaning lost to time. The air was thick with mystery, and the weight of the past seemed to hang in the very stones of the building. Lena had led Ryan here after a few days of discussing their plans and strategies. This was a place she had never brought anyone before, a secret even Zarak had kept hidden from the world. What is this place? Ryan asked, his voice low, reverberating off the walls. Lena turned to him, her expression serious. This is the sanctum of the ancients. It is a place where the oldest and most powerful knowledge of our people is kept. Zarak knew about it, but he kept it locked away for a reason. She paused, her eyes lingering on the symbols etched into the walls. And now, I must unlock it. Ryan's mind raced. He had no idea what Lena meant by unlocking it, but the urgency in her voice told him that whatever came next, it would change everything. Why now? Why didn't Zarak bring me here before? Ryan asked, trying to understand the urgency of the situation. Lena let out a soft breath, her fingers brushing the symbols on the wall as if feeling for something. Zarak didn't trust anyone with this knowledge, not even me. He believed that the power here would only be revealed when the time was right. And now, that time has come. Ryan frowned, still unsure of what to make of it all. He knew Zarak had been hiding something, but what could it possibly be? What kind of power could an alien diplomat's widow hold that could save or destroy the galaxy? Lena took a step forward, and the wall in front of them seemed to shift. The symbols glowed brighter, and the air around them hummed with energy. A section of the wall slid open, revealing a small chamber inside, filled with strange, glowing objects and data panels. The room looked like a mix of ancient relics and advanced technology. The combination of old and new felt almost wrong, as if time itself had been stretched and bent here. Ryan stepped closer, following Lena into the chamber. "This doesn't look like anything I've ever seen before." "It's not meant for your eyes," Lena replied softly. "But Zarek left something here for you, something that could help us understand what's coming." She approached a small pedestal at the center of the room. On it lay a crystalline device, similar in shape to the pendant Ryan had been given. Lena's hand hovered over the crystal, and for a moment, the entire room seemed to hold its breath. Then, with a deep, steadying inhale, Lena activated it. The crystal pulsed to life, and the walls of the chamber flickered. The symbols on the walls began to move, shifting into new formations, revealing something Ryan hadn't expected, a holographic image. It was Zarek, standing in front of a large floating screen, his face filled with concern. "Ryan," Zarek's voice echoed throughout the chamber, "if you're seeing this, then you are part of something much bigger than yourself. Something much bigger than Earth. I've kept secrets from you, things I hoped to never reveal. But it is time, and you must understand." Zarek's image paused for a moment, his expression growing more serious. "Lena is not just a widow. She is the key to an ancient power that predates our understanding of the universe. That power is waking up, and it's far more dangerous than you can imagine. We have to stop it, or it will destroy everything. The universe, your world, all worlds, gone." Ryan's heart pounded in his chest. "What are you talking about? What power?" Zarek's image seemed to flicker, as though the hologram itself was struggling to stay intact. "The Elder Race. They are an ancient civilization that existed long before any of our people, including Earth. The Elder Race is not just a race. It is an all-encompassing force, a being that is alive, a part of the very fabric of the universe. They are not like us. They do not think like us. They are driven by a singular purpose, to consume, to take everything and absorb it into themselves." Ryan stared at the hologram in disbelief. "Consume? What do you mean?" Zarek's face tightened. "The Elder Race does not just conquer planets. They absorb their energy, their life, their essence. Every living thing becomes a part of them. The Elder Race is the ultimate predator, and they have been dormant for eons. But they are waking up, and Lena is the only one who can stop them." Ryan's mind was reeling. He turned to look at Lena, who was standing quietly beside him, her expression unreadable. She knew all of this. She had known that she was connected to something that could save, or destroy, the galaxy, and yet she had said so little. Lena turned to him, her face soft but full of determination. "Zarek's death wasn't an accident. The Elder Race is hunting me. They believe that I hold the last piece of their power, the key to unlocking their full potential. If they find me, they will use me to unleash destruction across the galaxy." Ryan felt a chill settle deep in his bones. The weight of the situation was hitting him full force now. He had thought he was just here to protect Lena. But this was bigger than either of them. The entire galaxy's future depended on what they did next. "What do we do?" Ryan asked, his voice steady but filled with concern. Lena's eyes were hard, her resolve unshakable. "We fight. We find the strength to stop them before they find me. But we can't do it alone. We need help. We need allies." Ryan looked at her, seeing the seriousness in her eyes. This wasn't just about protecting her anymore. It was about saving everything. "We'll do it," Ryan said, his voice filled with a quiet, determined strength. "We'll stop them." Lena nodded, the faintest hint of a smile tugging at the corner of her lips. "Then let's begin." The calm that had settled over Ryan and Lena was shattered by the sudden hum of the crystal device. A soft light emanated from it, growing stronger, as if calling them to action. The air around them vibrated with energy, and the walls of the sanctum seemed to pulse with life. Ryan looked at Lena, who stood still, her face set in a determined expression. "We don't have time," Lena said, her voice firm, though her eyes betrayed a trace of fear. "The elder race is already moving. They'll know we've activated the crystal, and they'll come for us. We need to leave this place. Now." Ryan nodded, his heart racing. He had never imagined that the fate of the galaxy would rest on his shoulders, and yet here he was, caught in the middle of a war he didn't fully understand. But what choice did he have? Lena's safety, the survival of their world, and the future of all civilizations depended on them. Together, they hurried out of the sanctum, the door closing behind them with a soft click. The silence that followed was eerie, but Lena's pace never slowed. She led the way through the corridors of the ancient city, her steps swift and sure, as though she had memorized every inch of the place. Ryan followed closely behind, trying to keep up. "Where are we going?" he asked, his voice laced with urgency. "We need to reach the Hidden Fleet, a group of loyal allies who can help us," Lena replied without breaking stride. They'd been waiting for the signal. Zarak trusted them to act when the time came. Ryan's mind raced as he processed her words. A fleet. Loyal allies? It seemed like something out of an old adventure story, but this wasn't fiction, and it wasn't a game. It was their reality now. As they moved through the narrow streets of the city, Ryan couldn't help but notice the changes around him. The once bustling marketplace was now eerily quiet, the usual sounds of life replaced by a tense stillness. Alien citizens moved quickly, their eyes darting nervously. It was as if the entire city had been waiting for something to happen, and now it was. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed through the streets, followed by the unmistakable sound of engines. Ryan's heart skipped a beat as he looked around, trying to locate the source. His instincts screamed at him to run, but Lena was already moving faster, her expression resolute. She grabbed his arm, pulling him along as the rumble grew louder. "They're here," she said, her voice low but steady. Ryan felt a knot form in his stomach. The elder race. They had found them faster than he had imagined. What were they? How could they move so quickly? His mind was still grappling with the enormity of what was happening, but there was no time to think. They had to survive. As they rounded a corner, they came upon a hidden alcove, tucked away between two towering buildings. A ship stood there, sleek and powerful, its hull gleaming in the dim light. It was unlike any spacecraft Ryan had seen before. The design was alien, yet elegant, with sharp angles and curves that seemed to defy conventional physics. The ship's engines hummed quietly, ready for departure. Lena didn't hesitate. She ran up the ramp and into the ship, her movements fluid and precise. Ryan followed, his heart pounding as he stepped aboard. Inside, the ship was a blend of advanced technology and ancient mysticism, with glowing panels and intricate designs that seemed to pulse with life. The door to the cockpit closed behind them with a soft hiss, and Lena quickly took her seat at the controls. Ryan, still trying to catch his breath, sat beside her. The ship's interior was calm and serene, but the tension in the air was palpable. They had only moments before the elder race arrived. Lena's fingers moved quickly over the control panel, and the ship's engines roared to life. The view outside the cockpit showed the city's skyline quickly shrinking as they lifted off the ground. But before they could get far, a loud, shrill noise pierced the air. A warning. Ryan's eyes widened as he looked out the window. A dark, foreboding shape appeared in the sky, its massive form looming over the city. It was like a storm cloud, except it wasn't a cloud. It was a ship, unlike anything he had ever seen. Its surface seemed to shimmer, almost as if it was made of shadow itself. The mere sight of it made his stomach turn. "That's them," Lena said, her voice tight with dread. The Harbingers. They've come for me. Ryan's mind struggled to comprehend the enormity of what was happening. The Elder race wasn't just a collection of ships. They were something far more dangerous, something alive. And this ship was their herald, a terrifying vessel that could herald the end of everything. The Harbinger began to descend toward the planet, its massive shadow casting over the city. Ryan could feel the weight of its presence, as if it was draining the very light from the sky. "We need to get out of here," Ryan said urgently. "How do we stop it?" Lena's eyes met his, filled with determination. "We can't stop them alone. But if we can reach the hidden fleet in time, we'll have a chance." Ryan's heart pounded in his chest. The hidden fleet. What's the plan? Lena hesitated, her fingers flying over the control panel as she adjusted their course. "We'll rendezvous with the fleet and try to rally other allies. We need to find the core nexus, a location that holds the key to defeating the Elder race. But it's hidden, even from them. Only a few know its coordinates, and it's our last hope." Ryan didn't have time to process everything. The enormity of the situation was overwhelming, but he had no choice but to trust Lena. She knew more about this than he did, and somehow he had to believe that they could make it through. The ship shot forward, leaving the city behind as the Harbinger loomed ever closer. "We're not done yet," Lena said, her voice steady. "But we can't afford to fail." Ryan nodded, his grip tightening on the seat as they rocketed toward the unknown. The fate of the galaxy depended on them, and they were running out of time. The ship sliced through the atmosphere of Orcs 5, its engines roaring with a deep, resonant hum. Ryan gripped the armrest, his knuckles white as he stared out the viewport, watching the city shrink beneath them. Behind them, the Harbinger loomed like a dark omen, casting a shadow over everything in its path. Every instinct in Ryan screamed that they were being chased, and no matter how fast they flew, the enemy would catch up. He turned to Lena, who was seated at the control panel, her fingers dancing across the console with a calm precision. Despite the urgency of the situation, her face remained calm, her eyes narrowed in focus. "We're almost there," she said, her voice steady but with a hint of strain. "I've programmed the coordinates for the rendezvous point with the hidden fleet, but we'll need to jump through a void gate to get there. It's the fastest way." Ryan blinked, still trying to wrap his mind around everything. A void gate. The term sounded almost like something out of a science fiction novel, and yet, here they were, on the run from an ancient, all-consuming race, needing to rely on something so fantastical to escape. He had no idea what to expect, but one thing was clear: the path ahead would not be easy. "What's a void gate?" Ryan asked, trying to mask the uncertainty in his voice. Lena's eyes flicked toward him, a faint glimmer of something like reassurance in them. "It's a shortcut, a rift in space that connects distant points in the galaxy. The gate will lead us straight to the fleet, but it's not without risk." "Risk?" Ryan repeated. "What kind of risk?" Lena hesitated, her fingers pausing over the controls for a brief moment before she answered. "The gates are unstable. They're controlled by ancient technology, and they haven't been used in centuries. If we don't jump through properly, we could end up in the wrong part of space, or worse." She didn't finish the sentence, but Ryan could feel the weight of her unspoken words. If they failed, they could be lost in the vast expanse of space, far away from any help, at the mercy of the Elder race. His chest tightened at the thought, but he nodded, trying to ignore the rising panic inside him. "Do we have a choice?" he asked, looking back out at the Harbinger, which was growing larger as they continued their flight. Lena's gaze hardened. "No, we jump or we die." The atmosphere inside the ship seemed to thicken with the tension of their situation. Ryan swallowed hard, his fingers now gripping the seat beneath him. He didn't like being in a position where their survival depended on a gamble, but it was their only option. They had to reach the hidden fleet, and they had to do it quickly. Lena's fingers moved over the console again, and the ship's engines began to hum more deeply, vibrating through the floor. The lights flickered briefly, casting strange shadows across the cockpit. Ryan looked at her, sensing her growing focus. "It's time," Lena said quietly, her voice a mix of determination and fear. Ryan nodded, bracing himself as the ship neared the entrance to the void gate. The space outside the ship seemed to distort, the stars stretching and warping as they approached a shimmering rift in the fabric of space itself. It was like looking at a tear in the universe, a swirling vortex of colors and light. Ryan held his breath, unsure of what to expect. Everything inside him screamed that this wasn't natural, that they were about to do something that could tear them apart, but they didn't have time to turn back. Lena's hands gripped the controls tightly, her expression unreadable as she engaged the gate's coordinates. A deep rumble echoed through the ship, and the hull seemed to tremble under the strain of the energy building around them. The void gate stretched wider and wider, a swirling vortex that seemed to pull everything toward it. Ryan clenched his teeth, his mind racing. They were about to enter a rift that no one had used in centuries. It felt like the universe itself was holding its breath, waiting for them to either make it through or disappear into nothingness. Then, with a sudden surge, the ship lurched forward, diving straight into the swirling vortex. The stars outside the viewport disappeared in a flash, replaced by a wild burst of color and light. The ship shook violently as they sped through the rift, the world around them twisting and bending in ways that defied all logic. Ryan's stomach churned as he felt the weightlessness of the ship. His body seemed to be pulled in all directions at once, as if the very fabric of space was stretching him thin. He fought to stay conscious, his mind spinning as flashes of alien landscapes and strange star systems blinked by in rapid succession. He reached out instinctively, grabbing the armrest to steady himself, his heart racing in his chest. He could feel the heat of the ship's engines, the intense pressure building, as if the universe itself were trying to crush them. The entire ship groaned under the strain. Then, just as quickly as it had started, the turbulence stopped. The wild, bending colors outside the viewport gave way to calm, steady stars. They had made it through the gate. Ryan gasped for air, his head spinning. He looked out the window, blinking to make sense of the vastness of space around them. It was quiet now, still. No massive harbinger chasing them. No looming threat. Lena, however, remained focused. She didn't even seem winded. She quickly adjusted the ship's course, her fingers flying over the controls. "We're almost there, just a little farther." Ryan watched her for a moment, his mind still processing the rush of emotions from the jump. He had never experienced anything like that before. The void gate was unlike anything in human science, a gateway through the very fabric of space. It felt like they had just cheated death, but he knew they weren't safe yet. "Do you think the Harbinger followed us?" Ryan asked, unable to shake the nagging worry. Lena's eyes narrowed as she scanned the sensors. After a moment of silence, she shook her head. "No, the gate was cloaked. They couldn't follow us directly, but they will be looking for us. We've bought ourselves a little time, but not much." Ryan nodded grimly. "How long until we reach the hidden fleet?" Lena tapped a few buttons on the console, her eyes scanning the display. "Less than an hour. We'll be there soon." Ryan leaned back in his seat, trying to relax, but the weight of their situation pressed down on him. They had narrowly escaped the Harbinger, but the danger was far from over. They were still being hunted by the Elder race, and there was no guarantee that the hidden fleet would be enough to stop them. But for now, they had time. Time to regroup, time to plan. And maybe, just maybe, time to find a way to save the galaxy from the consuming force that threatened it. The stars outside the viewport of the ship were a blur of light as Lena piloted them toward their destination. The journey through the void gate had taken them far from the reach of the Harbinger, but the danger was far from over. Ryan could feel the weight of uncertainty pressing down on him. They were heading toward the hidden fleet, an enigmatic group of allies that had been waiting for this moment, but he couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into the unknown. Lena remained focused, her eyes fixed on the redouts in front of her. Every few seconds, she adjusted the ship's trajectory, her hands moving with practiced ease. Ryan sat beside her, trying to make sense of everything that had happened since his world had turned upside down. What had started as a simple visit to an alien planet had become a desperate flight for survival. "How much longer?" Ryan asked, his voice breaking the tense silence. Lena glanced at him, her expression unreadable. "Not long. The fleet is just ahead." Ryan nodded, though his mind was racing with questions. What was the hidden fleet? How had Lena known about them? How could they possibly be enough to fight the Elder race? The ship suddenly jolted slightly, and Ryan's stomach did a quick flip. Lena's eyes flicked to the sensors again, her brow furrowing for a split second. "There it is," she said quietly, a note of relief in her voice. She adjusted the ship's course one final time, and Ryan saw it. A massive fleet of ships hanging silently in space. The fleet was unlike anything Ryan had ever seen. It wasn't a traditional military armée. These ships were sleek, alien in design, and vastly different from the vessels of Earth. Some were large, others small, but they all seemed to be interconnected, as if they were part of a single coordinated force. They glimmered with a strange energy, their surfaces reflecting the distant light of the stars. The ships had a timeless quality to them, like they had been built eons ago, but had never aged. "Is this it?" Ryan asked, his voice filled with awe. Lena nodded. "Yes, the hidden fleet. They've been waiting for the day when the Elder race would return. They are the last line of defense against them." As they approached the fleet, a signal from one of the ships was sent to them, guiding their path. The massive ships parted to reveal a large space station at the center of the fleet, a command hub that looked both ancient and advanced, with spires that reached toward the stars. The station's surface was covered in strange symbols, much like those in the sanctum, and it seemed to hum with an energy that resonated deep within Ryan. Lena guided their ship toward the station, and as they docked, Ryan felt a sense of calm wash over him. He had no idea what to expect, but being surrounded by these ships, these allies, gave him a glimmer of hope. "Stay close," Lena said as she unstrapped herself and stood. "We don't know who will be waiting for us inside." Ryan followed her as she led the way to the airlock. The door hissed open, and they stepped into the station. The interior was vast and complex, a maze of corridors and rooms that seemed to stretch on endlessly. But it was not the size that caught Ryan's attention, it was the people. They were aliens, but not like the ones he had met on Orionis 5. These beings were tall, elegant, their skin a variety of shimmering hues, and their eyes glowed faintly with an inner light. They moved with grace and purpose, their presence commanding attention without saying a word. As Ryan and Lena made their way deeper into the station, they were greeted by a figure who stepped forward from the crowd. He was tall and imposing, with skin that shimmered like silver under the station's lights. His eyes were bright, almost glowing, and his expression was one of deep thought. "Lena," he said, his voice rich and smooth, "I see you've returned, and with company." Lena bowed her head slightly, acknowledging the figure. "I'm afraid our return wasn't by choice, Arian. We've come because the time has come. The Elder race is waking up." Arian's expression darkened. He turned his gaze toward Ryan, studying him for a moment before speaking again. "The human," he said softly, almost as if to himself. "I didn't expect you to be so involved." Ryan stepped forward, trying to appear calm. "I don't know what's going on, but Lena's been guiding me through all of this. If you know what's at stake, I'm ready to help." Arian's eyes lingered on Ryan, searching for something deeper. Finally, he nodded. "You're more than just a bystander, human. The Elder race has far-reaching influence, and if what we've heard is true, you may be the key to stopping them." Ryan blinked, confusion flooding his mind. "The key? I don't understand." Lena placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch reassuring. "Zarak didn't just bring you here for protection, Ryan. You have a part to play in all of this. The elder race's power is tied to something within you, something you don't even know exists. Ryan felt a chill run through him. What could he possibly have that could help stop the elder race? He was just a regular guy, thrown into this alien conflict with no real understanding of what was going on. But as Arian and Lena exchanged glances, he couldn't shake the feeling that the answers were just beyond his reach. Arian spoke again, his voice grave. "We have prepared for this moment for centuries. We have been watching the elder race's movements, waiting for the day they would make their return. And that day is now. But to defeat them, we need more than just strength. We need knowledge. Knowledge that is hidden in the core nexus." Ryan furrowed his brow. "The core nexus?" Lena nodded. "Yes, it's the place where the ancient power of the elder race was first discovered. It's hidden, even from them. And it's the key to stopping their consumption. But finding it won't be easy." Arian's eyes locked with Ryan's, his gaze unwavering. "You are the key. Your presence here, your connection to Lena. It's no accident. You must journey to the core nexus, retrieve the knowledge, and return. Only then can we hope to defeat the elder race." Ryan felt a weight settle in his chest. He didn't know how or why he was involved in all of this, but one thing was clear. The galaxy's fate was in his hands. He turned to Lena, seeing the trust in her eyes. She had believed in him from the beginning, and now he would have to live up to that faith. "I'll do it," he said quietly, determination hardening in his voice. "I'll do whatever it takes." Lena smiled faintly. "I knew you would." The time had come. Ryan was no longer just a bystander. He was a part of something much larger. Han himself. The future of the galaxy rested on their shoulders, and there was no turning back. The station buzzed with a tense energy as Ryan and Lena stood side by side, listening to Arian explain the gravity of their mission. The future of the galaxy, and perhaps the universe itself, rested on their shoulders. The stakes were higher than Ryan could ever have imagined when he first stepped into this strange world of aliens and ancient races. Now he found himself tasked with something far beyond anything he had ever expected. "Where is the core nexus?" Ryan asked, his voice steady but laced with uncertainty. He had spent the last few days struggling to keep up with the rapidly unfolding events. This mission sounded like something out of a legend. Arian turned his glowing eyes toward him, the faint hum of energy in the station's walls making the silence between them feel even more pressing. "The core nexus is hidden deep in the heart of the galaxy. It exists on a world beyond the reach of the elder race, concealed by ancient technology." He paused, his gaze lingering on Ryan. "No one, not even the elder race, knows exactly where it is, but we have maps, clues that will guide us." Lena stepped forward, her expression determined. "The journey will be dangerous. The path to the core nexus is filled with obstacles, some physical, some mental, and we will not be the only ones searching for it. The elder race will stop at nothing to ensure that it stays hidden." Ryan nodded, a sense of resolve settling in him. Despite his doubts, he couldn't back out now. Too much was at stake. Arian's voice broke through his thoughts. "You will need to be prepared, both physically and mentally. This journey will test you in ways you cannot yet understand." Lena smiled slightly. "Don't worry, we'll be with you every step of the way." They moved to another part of the station, to a chamber that was far more advanced than any technology Ryan had seen before. The walls were lined with glowing symbols, and at the center of the room stood a large circular platform with a faint shimmering light above it. "This," Arian said, "is the gateway. It will take you to the next stage of your journey, the location where the clues to the core nexus are hidden. Only those who are chosen can use it." Ryan stepped closer, feeling the weight of the moment. He had never thought he would be standing on the edge of something so important. He looked to Lena, who nodded reassuringly at him. He had to do this, for her, for the galaxy. "What do we need to do?" Ryan asked, his voice a little uncertain, but determined. "You must activate the gateway by touching the crystal in the center," Arian instructed. "It will respond to you." Once you do, you will be transported to the first part of your journey. But beware, the path will not be easy. Ryan took a deep breath, then stepped forward. He hesitated for just a moment, his hand hovering over the crystal. He had no idea what he was about to face, but there was no turning back now. He pressed his palm against the crystal, and the moment his skin made contact, the platform hummed to life. A wave of energy surged through the room, and a bright light enveloped him. His heart raced as he felt himself being pulled, as if gravity itself were warping around him. The air seemed to shimmer, and the next thing he knew, he was standing on solid ground once more. The hum of energy faded, and Ryan blinked, adjusting to his new surroundings. They were no longer on the space station. Before them stretched a barren, rocky landscape. The sky was a deep violet, and strange, glowing plants dotted the ground. There was an eerie quiet here, as if the very air held its breath. "This is the first step," Lena said, her voice low. "We need to find the first clue. It's hidden somewhere on this planet." Ryan looked around, feeling the weight of their isolation. The air was thin here, and the environment harsh. There were no signs of life, at least none that he could see. But as his eyes scanned the horizon, he noticed something strange, a faint, glowing line in the distance, stretching from one peak to another. It was as if the landscape itself was trying to guide them. "Do you see that?" Ryan asked, pointing to the glowing line. Lena followed his gaze. "Yes, that's the path we need to follow. It will lead us to the first clue." Without another word, they began walking toward the line. The rocky ground beneath their feet was uneven, making each step feel like a challenge. But with every step, Ryan felt a sense of purpose building within him. He wasn't just walking for his own survival anymore. He was walking for everyone. For the people who had been consumed by the elder race. For the people who had put their trust in him. And for Lena, who had risked everything to bring him here. As they neared the glowing line, the ground trembled beneath them. Ryan froze, his senses sharpening. Something was wrong. Lena's eyes narrowed. "Stay alert. We don't know what's waiting for us." Just as she spoke, the ground cracked open ahead of them, and a massive creature emerged from the depths. It was a grotesque mix of organic and mechanical, with glowing red eyes and a body covered in thick, armored plating. It snarled, revealing rows of sharp, metallic teeth. Ryan's heart raced as the creature turned toward them, its eyes fixated on their presence. It was enormous, its body moving with a predatory grace that sent a chill down Ryan's spine. "We need to fight it," Lena said, pulling out a sleek, advanced weapon from her side. "Get ready." Ryan felt a surge of adrenaline rush through him as he pulled out the plasma blade that had been given to him earlier. He had no idea how to fight something like this, but he had no choice. The creature lunged, its claws slashing through the air, and Ryan barely dodged in time. He felt the wind of the attack whip past his face. "Watch out," Lena shouted, firing her weapon at the creature. The energy blasts hit its armored hide, but it barely seemed to notice. Ryan gritted his teeth and charged forward, aiming his blade at the creature's exposed underbelly. It was the only weak point he could see. The battle was fierce, the creature relentless, but Ryan and Lena worked together, their movements synchronized as they fought for their survival. In the end, after what felt like an eternity, the creature fell to the ground with a massive thud, its mechanical body sparking and smoking. Panting, Ryan looked down at the creature, feeling a mix of relief and exhaustion. They had survived their first test. Lena wiped the sweat from her brow and nodded toward the glowing line. "Let's keep moving. The next clue is close." Ryan followed her, his mind buzzing with the enormity of what lay ahead. The core nexus was still far away, and he had no idea what other dangers awaited them. But one thing was certain, the journey had only just begun.